trouble.
Make it double.
To protect the world from devastation.
To unite all peoples within our nation.
To denounce the evils of truth and love.
To extend our reach to the stars above.
Jesse!
James!
Team Rocket, blast off at the speed of light!
Surrender now or prepare to fight.
Meow, that's right.
Yo guys, it's me Matrix here, coach of the Welsh Raylords. We are bringing you the season recap of the TGR's Gruesome Rocket League. We have recently become champion. It was a great season hosted by the TGR staff, and we're here just to break down my team in such an interesting format. So, a brief rundown of what the format entails. So, as usual, it's VGC doubles, but what's unique about this format is that you draft a team of, I think it was 10 Pokemon, and throughout the season your team changes, and it changes based on whether you win or lose. If you win, you have the opportunity to steal a Pokemon from your opponent's team that isn't protected, and if you lose, your opponent has a chance to steal a Pokemon from you, and you are then able to replace that stolen Pokemon from the Pokemon pool of undrafted Pokemon. Now, this led to a very dynamic experience through the season, so a lot of the teams were changing, a lot of them were getting better, a lot of them were getting slightly worse because of a lot of key Pokemon on their teams were getting removed, and it created a very fun, unique and enjoyable way to play the Draft League, which I don't think has really been experimented before, so I really enjoyed that. It was a new exciting twist, and honestly I would 10 out of 10 would recommend anyone else to do it again next season. It was really fun. However, today I want to talk to you about my draft in particular. This season we were repping the Welsh Raylords because as a team, as Team Rocket do, the mod team were taken over by Team Rocket, and I was, what was it, Matrix or Watrix or Ratrix of the Welsh Raylords. So I became Agent Whale, and repped the mod team in the season. So a little bit different, cool little logo here, created by Brave, Brave VGC, whatever he goes by, another mod of the channel, friend for a few years. He's also the graphic designer who created my original Welsh Waylords logo, and he, of his own will and desire, created me this really cool Welsh Raylords logo for a Team Rocket inspired spin. Really fun, really cool, and yeah. So through the season, or rather at the start of the season, we drafted a team. I decided to create a interesting spin even further than the more challenge. This challenge for me was on the draft aspect. I wanted to draft a team that was restricted to primary types associated with Team Rocket, this being Bug, Poison, Ghost, Psychic and Dark, and the only way I could gain Pokemon of other types was through stealing them. So I drafted 2 of every type at the start, and then went ahead and progressed through the season only claiming Pokemon not of these types through victories against other teams and stealing their Pokemon in true Team Rocket fashion. So, what's the team? Well, I started off, I can't remember what pick I was, but I started off with Volcarona. Now, Volcarona I thought would be a really good Pokemon to have because of its very especially offensive and very supportive as well. So you really can't go wrong. And my idea with Volcarona is that it's one of the strongest bug types, and it's a very good Terra candidate, because in this league Pokemon can only terrestrialize if they are protected. So the idea was to draft Volcarona and have it as a protected mon that could terrestrialize, and You can then have it be offensive with a Quiver Dance set, or maybe just support with Rage Powder, or just support and chip them down. Second to Volcarona, I decided to get Spectria, a legendary ghost type that is very fast, very offensive. However, I soon found out that it kind of lacks a little bit in the coverage department, and you'd be surprised how many mons actually outspeed Spectria. Base speed of 130 just doesn't last the same as it used to. Next, we drafted a Dark type Pokemon. Now, I really wanted to get Iron Jugulus because I really wanted that fast Tailwind, that really good fast support that Iron Jugulus can offer. Because Boosted Energy, speaking of Pokemon that can outspeed Spectria, Boosted Energy Iron Jugulus is able to get really quick Tailwinds off, really quick Taunts. It's got strong Dark Pulse and Air Slashes. It's got good coverage in moves like Earth Power and I believe Flamethrower. So really, really fun, a really cool mon to use. I was very happy that I was able to get that by the third round. Especially as the way the draft runs is, it was a synchronized draft, so you kind of you submit your picks onto a Google form, and if any Pokemon are contested, they were banned, like just straight up banned. And so that made the drafting process very interesting as well, because you'd have a lot of like high tier mons banned because they were contested, and so I had to not only plan my draft around my restriction, but also plan it around other coaches in order to get the best value mons without having them being contested and taken away from me. So yeah, we got the Iron Jugulus. We then got Metagross. Now I chose Metagross because it's a bit of a stat merchant. Like, as for a Psychic type, very good. I'm primarily taking it for the Steel typing. I did have the backup in mind being Jirachi, but like, it's a pseudo legendary, base 600, really good attack stats, and like up to this point, I'd already had a lot of special attackers there, so I really appreciated that physical attack, that physical bulk for it. We then decided to go even more into the special attack and got Latios, and this is my second Psychic type. I wanted to get as many high statted mons because there wasn't like a tier system to this draft. It was just, here's your draft board, pick, and the only real restriction was whether they get contested by the other coaches or not, whether you can get them. But like, Latios gives me another fast Tailwind user. It's a Levitate mon for Metagross, you know, removing that ground weakness. A good switch in there without having the other weaknesses such as Electric and stuff that Iron Jugulus would naturally have. But also it's got really good offense like Draco Meteor and stuff. So like, I really appreciated having that extra Dragon type whilst in the drafting process. We start to get a little bit scarce with our picks as the draft progressed, because a lot of the higher tiered stuff, or usually higher tiered, was already taken. I did find myself needing some ways to answer Trick Room though, and I found that in Mimikyu. Having like Fairy typing is really hard to come by with this restriction. There's not many of those dual typings of like Fairy and Psychic, for example. There's only like Gardevoir and stuff. And I didn't really want a Gardevoir on the team. I really wanted, and I also was trying to limit myself to 2 of each type. And I felt like a physical ghost type really helps here. Like, if you notice, Metagross and Latios are 2 psychic types that are special and physical, so I got myself a physical ghost type to go alongside Spectria's special. And it's just really good. Like, it's really hard to deny Mimikyu from doing what it wants to do on the first turn because of its immune to fake out, so it can't be flinched. Like, in that regard, it's also very hard to like straight up kill thanks to its ability to disguise. And it can be quite versatile. Like, it's got decent offense, so it's a decent offensive sweeper, but set up, but also very fast, so it can support as well. And often enough, even though it doesn't have the best bulk in the world, it's always living 2 attacks, so it's able to get on and do what it wants. Next, we chose Cleavor. I was really starting to struggle at this point for what I wanted. We chose Cleavor because I felt like I needed some ways to hit like fire types, because I was really struggling for that at this point. A lot of the better Pokemon had already been taken, especially those that shared the types I wanted. So we ended up going for Cleavor, again, a physical bug to go alongside Volcarona. Having the Stone Axe capability is really valuable. And just like, because it's a reliable 100% accurate rock move, it's got sharpness boosted moves, like you get some really good offensive power from that. Although a little bit slower, my team does kind of compensate for it a bit with some of the faster support mods that I've got. We're really struggling to get like good water types. I ended up going for Tentacruel because a lot of the water dart types that I was looking at had already been taken, and so we get our first poison type here, which is Tentacruel. It's decently fast. It's got a bit of special bulk behind it. It allows me to at least use it as a switch for Metagross, although I don't really like that it's also sharing that ground weakness with Metagross. But yeah, that was the reason why we drafted the Tentacruel. Next we drafted Venusaur. Again, the poison types are hard to come by, especially, and so was grass. Like, I really struggled to find like a good grass type that met the conditions, and so I ended up picking Venusaur. Even though I don't have Sun, like even in the manual sense, it's not really present. Like maybe Booster Energy, Sunny Day, Iron Jugulus. But like I kind of like Venusaur for more of the defensive capabilities it could offer, and like being annoying with like Leech Seed and Sleep Powder and stuff like that, as well as having decent offensive coverage. So yeah. And lastly, we got Scrafty, which I really like for the team. It's that physical dart type. Again, showing the split between the types I drafted, being physical and special. The only place that really didn't work out was for the Tentacruel and the Venusaur. But also giving myself Fake Out, which the team lacked, Intimidate that the team lacked, some really good like bulk to the team, and that fighting offense to really allow me to hit those steel types a little bit better, because outside of Volcarona, I really struggled to hit steel types as well. So yeah, that was what we drafted. I can tell you for right now, that's not how the team ended. 10 Pokemon and 8 weeks ahead of us. So what I'm going to do is take you through to the prizes. I should probably mention, yeah, Volcarona here. It was my Terra Captain. That's who I started off as my protected mon. So I was never losing I knew I was never going to lose Volcarona through the season, and it was always going to be able to have the capability to terrestrialize. So yeah, we'll have a look at the prizes that we ended up taking, or mons that we also like picked up in response to some losses. So we managed to win a Gyarados, we picked up a Greninja, I picked up a Golurk, and then the rest are all Pokemon that we basically won. So Arcanine, Raikou, Suicune, Mudsdale, and Primarina. Meowstic Male was another mon we picked up. And then lastly, the Pikachu over there in the top right, that was the champion's pick because from the final match. So what I want to do is go through the team. I'm going to try to spend as little time as possible on this, because I don't want this video to really be dragged out. But we're kind of using this as like a pseudo Hall of Fame post that the TGR likes to do. I kind of want to just spend a bit of time talking about each Pokemon and the impact I felt like they had on my season. Because I do feel quite strongly about a lot of these Pokemon. It was really interesting as well. Like, it's the first time I've been able to use a team which, as you can see here, had literally 19 different Pokemon on it at any given point. It was like, that's insane, if you ask me. So yeah, let's start off with the team rankings at the unranked Pokemon. So Tentacruel, Spectria, and Gyarados I've all put in unranked because it's unfair to really rank them compared to the rest of the team, because they never actually got any usage. Like, Tentacruel was dropped week 1 in order to pick up Gyarados. Like, I picked up Gyarados after the first week because we won our week 1 match. But then Gyarados got taken from us in week 2 because I lost. So it really kind of just hopped onto the team and then got instantly replaced. Spectria, however, although I did bring it to a game in week 2, it got taken from my team after week 4. Like, I think by week 4 I was 2-2, and before Spectria even got to hit the field, I lost it. So it would be a little bit lower anyway, because of I did get several opportunities to take it to matches. I often found like I wasn't able to terrestrialize it, and its coverage isn't great, and my opponents were able to really prep around its speed and lack of coverage. So really, it was really difficult to fit onto my team. But I still don't think it's fair to rank it because it never actually got a chance to prove its worth. So yeah, starting off at the bottom of our list, we've got number 16, the Empty Golem. So, talk about Spectria. Golem got replaced Spectria in week 4. It's the Pokemon I picked up. I picked up another Ghost type. The reason why I picked up Golem over some other special attacking Ghost types that would be replaced in Spec or any fast ones is because if I was really lacking a ground type, I found myself really needing that electric immunity. I really needed to hit the fire and steel types. A lot of teams have been using Terra Steel or Terra Fire into me at that point, so I really needed like that really hard hitting ground stab. However, I did end up dropping Golurk later on in the season in week 7 after bringing it to only one game, which was in week 6. So during that 3-week period, I had it from week 5, 6, and 7, and I only came to the one game, and we ended up losing with it anyway. The only reason why I brought it was because it provided an advantage of being a ground type, and it didn't really follow through. Like, I think I had a Pasho Berry set on it, and it's a Golurk at the end of the day. It's not the best mon in the world. It did its job. It did get some kills, even though it came to 1 week, and I did take it to every game in that 3-game set, but it just wasn't enough. I'm pretty sure this was against Adam as well, so... who had a really cool Necrozma that I just couldn't break. It was a Terra Necrozma as well, so base 4, Terra Fairy. Moving on, number 15, Latios. Like, I just didn't think Latios really gave much impact to the team. I did pick it originally as being a levitating dragon. It's got fast defenses and support. I did end up losing it in week 6 to Adam. Like, Adam beat me with that Terra Fairy Necrozma. Golurk really helped me there. But it was always outclassed. It was always outpaced, outbulked, out-offensed. It felt really awkward. Now, I did bring it to 3 games in the 6 weeks I had it, but only won the week 1. And it was crucial to that week 1 win, to be fair. It had an amazing game where I had Simple Beam into the opposing team's not Palafin. I think it was Conkeldurr. And I got a Simple Beam off into it, followed by a Breaking Swipe, basically reducing its attack by 2 stages rather than the 1. As well as removing its Guts ability, keeping it burned, and it allowed my Mimikyu to just win the game outright. So I will give it props for that really cool set, but otherwise it just wasn't good enough. And I was really disappointed by it. So whether that was a byproduct of the team it was on, I don't know. I felt like this season of Rocket had a lot of teams with like Prankster. It had a lot of like terrain teams, weather teams. They had a lot of combo and synergistic heavy teams that Latios just failed to keep pace with, like always being outspared, always being hit harder than it can hit, or if it was getting hits off, it just wasn't doing the damage it needed to do, so that it was always a negative trade-off. Moving on from Latios, we got Cleaver, and Cleaver was good for the week it was brought. I did drop it in week 5. I only brought it to 1 game. It never died, and it did its job. It just was never really needed. Like, a lot of the time I was finding myself wanting to bring it, but it was always the 7th Pokemon on my team. I didn't really have a need to bring it in a lot of cases. The one time I did bring it, it did dodge a meteor beam from the opposing team's Iron Moth, and it did get a nice stone axe off. I do think I played that game a little bit rough, like especially inside the crocodile and stuff, and I could have played it a bit better, and giving Cleaver a more fair chance, but we ended up dropping it in week 5 for Arcanine because it's just a better rock type. As I say, like I originally drafted the Cleaver for the pressure against other fire types and fire terror, which my team was kind of lacking at that point because Tentacruel being the only water type I had wasn't great. And like obviously that's sharpness boost as well, but honestly like Arcanine Hisui kind of outclasses it in my opinion with having that rock head smash. It's just better, it's faster, and it has more coverage that's useful for the format, especially like extreme speed and Flare Blitz being better into the steel type source, which were also walling me. But yeah, Cleaver honestly didn't do that bad in the games it came to. It just failed to really bring the oomph that my team was missing. Moving into 13th was the One Trick Pony Mudsdale. We only picked it up because we still needed ground stab. We did drop Arcanine Hisui for the Mudsdale, so we just saw that I picked up Arcanine over Cleavor, but I picked up Mudsdale over Arcanine. Now that was no fault of Arcanine's. I needed some ground stab to really pressure the Hisui and Gudra because of Scrafty just couldn't. I knew that I was going to be facing Gudra Hisui in the semi-final, and so I decided to pick up the ground type. However, I did end up dropping it for the next match. It was literally the only Pokemon that I drafted the entire season, knowing I would drop it the next week for something better. I was very conflicted at the time as well. Like, I kind of wanted to pick up the electric type or the water type from the team that I picked it from. But honestly, I found myself thinking, if I pick up this Mudsdale, it's going to pressure Hisui and Gudra in the team builder like perfectly, and it did. Like the Hisui and Gudra didn't even come to the match, so like it did its job just to prevent Hisui and Gudra from coming, which was a problem for my team because my team was at that point leaning very specially, so I needed some physical threat that stopped it, especially with playoffs. Playoffs wasn't Terra, so you didn't have these Terra captains in playoffs, so Hisui and Gudra was not able to really use that gimmick to circumvent the stab damage, stab super effective damage. It still had an impact though in the game it came. Like, you see, like its kill is 0. It was only brought to 1 actual set. It died in the set it came to. But what was good about it is that I needed to win the game too, and I had a Trick Room mode that I wasn't planning on using against my opponent, but in the moment felt really good and felt like I could switch things up in the second game with the Trick Room, Mimikyu, and Mudsdale on lead to really pressure their leads, and it was literally so impactful. Like, it chipped their Pokemon down and allowed me to get into a really advantageous position for the end game. So I still respect Mudsdale for that, even though it was only picked up for 1 match. Moving on, we got Greninja, and I think we started to enter the point where I felt like these mons genuinely were like very impactful to my team. Are you Shuriken? I picked up Greninja in response to losing Gyarados, and the reason why I did that is because I felt like what I'd overlooked in the initial draft is that Protean is actually pretty good for the fact that I had type restriction. It allowed me to kind of circumvent my own rule, but staying within the lines of the rules. It also provided some speed I was missing, so like having that fast Icy Wind was really nice. I often ran it with Focus Sash in order to gain like an extra turn. Something that was really impactful for me with the Greninja is that it outsped Dondozo in the Dondozo matchup for Haze, so it could haze the stat boost away. However, we still ended up losing that match. That was back in week 4. It was on the team in week 3, but just didn't. Where we got the win. And so, like, looking back at the actual games it was brought to, it never actually, even though it was decent on paper, even though it felt decent in the matches, it still wasn't enough for us to actually get the wins to the games it was brought to. And we ended up dropping it in week 8 for a Suicune, just again that bulkier water type that I felt like was going to be way better for the team. And like, it was used exclusively for its speed and for Protean, but I never actually used Protean, even though that's the reason why I picked it up. I ended up going a lot of the time just Torrent with Focus Sash for the extra damage, and I never really wanted to switch out of its water and dark typing, which is which is again why I ended up replacing it for a bulky water type, because I actually really valued having that water typing on it. I did try Battle Bond once, but that unfortunately was a forfeited win, and so that never got to be played. Still did pretty well though, in my opinion. Like 3-4 isn't bad in 3 games. -1 KD for a support mon, not bad. Moving on, we've got Volcarona. Now this could be surprising to you. I don't know, considering it was my first pick of the draft. It was on my OG team, and it was my first Terra captain. So I've had it as a Terra captain all the way from week 1 through 8. But like you can see here in the brought weeks, I only brought it to 4 games through the entire season, and they were all front loaded. Week 1, 2, and 4. 5 never actually got played, so one of those. I never used it after the midpoint of the season. Never used it through playoffs. And like it felt clunky to use. I don't know, I can't really explain to you why that is. It always felt pressured, I think. Like it was always going to get one shot. It just wasn't providing enough for my other Pokemon. The matchups weren't great for it. It's like it was always, even with Terra, I felt like I had better usages out of my other Pokemon to Terra. Because I did at that point have a lot more mons to Terra, and I think that's the reason why it was so front loaded in its usage, because when it was one of the only Pokemon that I had to Terra, I kind of had to rely on it. But then when I got those losses for using it in weeks 2 and weeks 4, I decided, well, I've got better Pokemon I can use this Terra on, so I don't need to use it on Volcarona, and the rest of my team was so strong anyway that I just found myself never really bringing it. It was often like a 7th or 8th Mon, but just never really found its way onto the team. The one impact I really appreciated for Volcarona is it forced a lot of respect in prep. Like people still had to respect like the safety, the Rage Powder with safety goggles, or the Quiver Dance setups, or the Will-O-Wisp support, or the Tailwind and stuff. So like a lot of the time, I actually won a few games because my opponents over prepped for the Volcarona, like the Terra of Volcarona, and it never came to the match, and so it worked in my favor. I'm kind of surprised, maybe even considering I upload videos, that people didn't really cotton onto this. But I suppose even though like someone's not bringing Volcarona to every game or something, they still have to respect it. That, oh, the Volcarona looks decent into my team, I've got to respect it and be like prepping accordingly. And that allowed me to get away with a lot more things than I probably should have. So. And that's also one of the reasons why I never removed it. Even though I wasn't using it in my matches and I replaced a lot of other Pokemon, I wanted Volcarona on there because of the prep it forced. And that's why it's higher than I feel like it should have been. Even though some of the mons lower down on my list felt more impactful in their games, I've got to respect that Volcarona was impactful to the whole team just by being present. 10th, Song of Champions Primarina. It was the last addition to my team, so like Mudsdale, only came to 1 game, and it was picked up for the that final match. What's unique about this is that I would have continued on with Primarina on my team, because I actually really like Primarina. I really rate it as a Pokemon. Good bulk, good at offense, very good for the format. But what's super unique is that I actually only brought it to 1 game. So in game, it came to the final game of or the final set, whatever you want to call it, game 3 of the final match of the season. And it was so impactful. I noticed in that set that we were playing that I really needed that spread damage to pressure the opponent's follow me lead. Even though I was playing up against a rain team, and you would think, oh, Hyper Voice isn't going to do that great. It's because there's a lot of water types. They played it in such a way that I got really good value out of the Hyper Voice, the Moon Blasts, getting rid of the Mouse Hold and stuff. And like, it ended up clutching out the final set, that game 3, being the only Pokemon on my side of the field to get the victory. Because the game 3 was a 1-0 win to me. And that's how close that final was. And so Primarina, even though it only came to one game, huge respect, because if it wasn't for Prim, I don't think I would have won. Like, I had Suicune on the team, and it on that same team, and being bulkier was actually a bit more of a disservice because I couldn't get the damage out of it. There's no point sometimes having Pokemon that are very bulky if you can't capitalize on the damage as well, because otherwise they just sat there absorbing hits and you end up doing a negative trade. But yeah, we dropped the Mudsdale for the Primarina, and it was kind of just picked up to face off against the Rain team. They didn't really have much to pressure the water types either. Their electric type was Pikachu. Their grass type was, I think, very non-existent, if at all. And it did help that we stole their electric type from them a few weeks before playoffs started, so really pressured their team because of that. But yeah, 100% win rate with Primarina, 0% death rate. Gotta be pretty ecstatic about that. One of the better KDs of the team. Into our top 9. So now we're in the top 10. It's kind of like my idealistic version of my final, my champion team. You can already see that I've got Mons on here. I had Pokemon in outside my top 10 that weren't actually in my final team. Pokemon such as Arcanine. So, where Volcarona swapped places with Arcanine. If I wasn't being strategic about it, I probably would have dropped the Volcarona for the Mudsdale and kept the Arcanine Hisui. However, looking at the prediction into my playoff run, I was very likely going to be playing against teams that Arcanine without Terra was not going to do well as. Like, Arcanine was very impactful when I got it. Like, it really allowed me to turn my season around. Like, getting it in week 5, we only proceeded to lose one more game through that season. I think it was maybe week 6. And then because of that week 6 loss, we managed to get Arcanine as a Terra captain. And from there, for those last 2 matches, week 7, week 8, where it came, MVP of both games. Like, it was so strong and allowed us to finish very strongly. However, I had to drop it after those 2 games, even though it was one of my Terra captains and my protected Pokemon, because I just needed Pokemon that could be brought against a rain team. I did bring Terra Water Hisui and Arcanine to wall out their rain team, and it just hit head smash after head smash whilst taking minimal damage from them, which was really good. And it was such a good Pokemon at this point because of, like, it was able to hit that fire type, able to hit those steel types that I've been having trouble with through the season. And not only did it threaten those type of Pokemon, but like in the final week's match, I was able to go for a really nice set where I was able to wall out their Sunroom. So they had Sunroom Psyspam, so they had Torkoal, they had Psychic Terrain, they had I think like Exeggutor or something similar to that, where it was proven to be difficult. I'm pretty sure that it was the team with Sandy Shocks and Thunderous Therian, and they also had Suicune, and so Arcanine just absolutely pulled out of the bag for me and really helped me to get into those playoffs. And it always felt good. Like you can see here, came to 2 games, died once in all those games, and got 9 kills. Like, it was just an absolute menace. Huge respect. But it had to stay down in 9th because it just hardly came to games. It only came to 2 of them. Next, we have Raikou. So added in week 7, dropped Golurk for it, and the reason why I did this is because I actually found myself needing the electric type. Also, I figured if I was to ever face off against the rain team again, I would really appreciate it if they didn't have the Raikou. I think it was week 7 that I was starting to really predict how I wanted my team to look for playoffs, and I was trying to make sure that I had the best team going into playoffs whilst also disadvantaging the players that I expected to be facing against in the playoffs, such as I think it was Camo that I faced off against who had the Raikou. The Raikou was difficult for me to play against in the game, but also taking it so my opponent couldn't have it themselves when we later rematched in the final, where I don't have access to Terra, really helped my team. What was really cool about it is that it was very fast, but had surprising bulk. Like, I had a really good AV set in week 8 that just snarl spam and walled out the Sunroom. Like, just completely walled it out. And I really enjoyed using it. Like, you can see here, 2 deaths only, still got some good kills, 6 kills in 2 games. That's not bad. Like, we're talking 4 game sets, so that's a total of what, 16 kills you can get, and it got 6 of them. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So yeah, I really enjoyed the Raikou. And funny enough, we will head back over to one of the OG team members, which is Iron Jugulus. Now, I've struggled to rank these middle mons because I felt like they all had like a very similar like usage or viability to my, or at least impact on my team. You can see that I actually brought Iron Jugulus a lot, and it's probably my most brought mon that's this low on the list. Boost energy speed control. I mentioned it earlier on in the intro. So good. Like, it's fast. It's able to use support moves at a scarf level speed. But the problem is, it was very mid. Problem with Jugs is because you're using booster energy, you can't run Covert Cloak, and you always want to run like 4 moves on it because you want attacks to be able to hit multiple mons, because of its typing isn't the best for offense, but also it gets flinched by so it gets flinched a lot by fake out. It's often get outsped by prankster mons setting up like their own tailwind, or Gale Wings setting up the tailwind. So even though it had a fast tailwind, it couldn't really compete in that aspect. It did have an immunity to prankster, which was nice, so I couldn't be taunted, and that I really liked. But like, it didn't matter if the opposing team was just going to do their own terrain, their own weather and stuff through prankster. So really made it awkward to use. I did often find it on my team as the 6th mon, so it always made the team because I always needed that speed control and that booster energy speed and stuff like that. And it always forced prep from the opponent and keep them from. It allowed me to keep contesting the speed, as I say, though at least at the upper levels of speed control. It didn't do much in terms of damage. It did get killed a lot, but like, it was a support piece at the end of the day. And I had a very like mixed season, so like, it was a part of every loss that I had, but also was a part of multiple wins. So very balanced in that aspect. I feel like where a lot of my mons either underperformed, like the Latios of the world, or overperformed like some of the mons you'll see later, it kind of did what I wanted from it, but it never did more. So like, it was kind of a middle ground performer where I kind of wish I could have got a bit more mileage out of its usage, especially like a lot of people find in draft like Iron Jugulus is like that mon, that really annoying mon to deal with. But like, maybe it's because I didn't have the best fake out support around it that it often found itself faked out itself, so, and flinched. Still, very good mon nonetheless. As I say, 6th mon that I use on most of the teams. It found itself at rank 7. That's pretty good, and it was on my team all the way to the final, so pretty good. And like, as you can see, it came to every game but the quarterfinal, week 1, and the final. So pretty impactful. Next, we move on to Suicune, the brother of Raikou, and bringing the storm it did. Basically, ever since I got Suicune, came to every game. I would say I added the Suicune, as I said earlier, over the Greninja because I needed that bulky water for the playoff run. And not only that, inner focus. You'll see a repeating theme I'm talking about is that like being outsped a lot of the time, killed because of being outsped or getting flinched because of fake outs that I just didn't have the capacity to pressure back because I didn't really run fake out on my team. And when I did, the opposing team had covert cloaks anyway. So what real good is the fake out, you know? But this gave me a tailwind, a bulky tailwind that could not be flinched and allowed me to run defensive items like Citrus Berry or Wacom Berry and stuff like that. And like I brought it to every game of playoffs, and I do think it was the star player of the playoffs because of that. Like it had an impact in every single game just by being super bulky, hard to kill, hard to remove, and just hard to deal with in general. And like a really cool set that I really gotta shout out Miss Mag for. Rocky Helmet shut down the mouse hold in the final, got a kill turn one of turn one of game one in the final match. Like got rid of the mouse hold straight away and for very little itself. Also, a lot of the teams through playoffs were trying to taunt the Suicune, and I was just sitting there being bulky as sin. I mean, like, yep, I don't care. You can taunt me if you wish. I don't care. I'm just gonna chip away at your health and do its job. So, gotta love myself a bulky water type. Really going back to my roots. Top 5 now. Scrafty. Honestly, always the 5th or 6th mon on my team. Like you'd be surprised how often I really actually brought it. Although it didn't hit the field a lot because it was one of my only fake out options. Because of that fighting stab, pressuring these steel types and stuff, I found myself running it a lot, even though it had a massive glaring weakness to fairy. And like it's just a very bulky. I feel like unfortunate for Scrafty is that its performance isn't really like measured through its stats, and rather it was if there was some hidden stats to the game, like its impact was really felt in the supporting role it did. So it didn't really die much. It never really got kills. It never really came. It came to quite a few games, and it kind of just really sat there and supported the team. Like whether it be fake out cycling, whether it be super fanging the team, whether it be coaching up, whether it be just knock offing or those type of moves or drain punch, and it's just really helped. That's a bit of a typo there. I didn't mean to have the Rocky Helmet info in the impact zone, but it really pulled its weight through playoffs. Like I only brought it to quarterfinal and the final, but in the previous weeks where I brought it, it did lose in week 6 to the Dondozo, but it won nearly every other game it was brought. And in previous weeks I'd brought it, I didn't use it super consistently. Like it was always like the 5th or 6th, so it wasn't really hitting the field. But through playoffs, it definitely hit the field. One example that I really liked from it is, which was again talking about this impact of prep versus play, is that because of a decision that I did in like week 7 against Camo, I used upper hand to shut down the Jet Punch Palafin, who was only running Jet Punch and Flip Turn as offensive moves. It forced him to make a decision in the final match with his Pikachu, where he decided to go, I think it was for upper hand on Pikachu, to try and block my upper hand, blocking his Palafin's Jet Punch. And I didn't go for that. And Scrafty got so much mileage out because of that, because of my decision to run it a certain way in a previous week, forcing my opponent to prep for it in the rematch, and then me being able to change up its set enough to where that didn't matter. and yeah, it really gave me a position, gave me an out that didn't think I was going to get, and allowed me to go on to win the games. And that's why I've got to respect Scrafty for its the amount of work it put in. Fourth spot and just shy of the podium position is Venusaur. Now I didn't think when I drafted my team I would have had Venusaur this high up on the list. I never found an opportunity to replace it. Like, I did look, but I really liked its grass typing with its poison typing. Like, it's surprising how useful grass poison type defensively is and offensively. And it's got decent enough coverage that I kind of liked having it around. It always had these really weird niche matchups. Like you can see here, it still went positive. 6 kills, 4 deaths, and it was brought to 6 games. Yes, it lost in week 2. Yes, it lost in week 6. But it was brought to every game in the playoffs. And very impactful as a result. It did start off a little bit slow, as I say. Week 1, 2, and only 6. So I was actually finding myself not really wanting to bring it too much, but then, man, did it really perform through playoffs when it counted. A lot of its sets involved like either being bulky Black Sludge or just straight up Life Orb offensive. And what was really good about it, and why I say like its grass poison typing was so impactful, is I had to face off against Primarina twice. I had to face off against an Azumarill. These water fairies are really awkward to deal with, and Venusaur is just such a natural counter for that. Like, resisting both of those stabs, it just allowed my team to play around them pretty well. Even though it did lose week 2 against the Primarina. But that was because of King Gambit and my lack of respect for a Terrafire King Gambit, expecting a Volcarona to be able to deal with it. So yeah, really enjoyed the Venusaur. And funny enough, I did end up drafting like Manual Sun later on, expecting myself to use it. And although I did use Chlorophyll Venusaur a lot, like, I didn't need it. Like, I didn't feel like the team needed Chlorophyll for Venusaur to work. So I'm really like proud of the fact that Venusaur, a mon you would usually only draft if you were drafting Sun teams, and only particular niche Sun teams in this generation. But like, it just goes to show that you can still use these Pokemon outside the usual synergies and stuff, and them still having a really good, impactful season on your team. So, way to go, OG number 1, Venusaur. So now we enter the podiums, and this is where it gets exciting. Mimikyu, the Tri-Terra. I loved Mimikyu this season. As you can see here, it was brought to 7 games, 8 if you include the fact that I wanted to bring it to my week 5 match, but 11 kills and only 4 deaths. Like, that's really good, considering it was both a support piece and offensive threat. It was the only mon that I really drafted that had Trick Room on its team, and it was the only way to deal with these Trick Room heavy teams. The Fairy type and the Disguise, like I said in the intro, super helpful, especially early season when my team was so one-dimensional. And it picked up the highest number of kills for any of my non-Terra Captain Pokemon. So again, just showing how good its natural offensive typing is. It was brought to many wins, did come to a few losses, but something that I respected is Swords Dance. Like, I don't usually go for these Swords Dance setup strategies, like or Belly Drum for that example, for that same type of thing. And the reason why I don't usually go for these like 1-stat increasing sets is because I often find it's easy to punish if you don't also have a way to increase your speed and stuff. However, because they had to prep for a Trick Room based Mimikyu and a fast based Mimikyu, it was actually in a really sweet spot where I could surprise them with this Trick Room setup, or go for a Swords Dance and just like really go hard with like Shadow Sneaks and Play Roughs and stuff. And there was a few games early on, especially weeks 1 through I think 5, where Mimikyu was the best mon in every single game. And where I just loved its versatility. Like, it was so fun to use. It did fall off a little bit towards the end, but then it just picked back up again in the final and the quarterfinal to be like, yes, I need this trick room, yes, I need this support, or oh, I need this offensive capability that I just don't have elsewhere on my team. And again, drawing back to this whole idea of like fake outs was such a problem for me. And it being able to be a lead that just doesn't need to worry about it. So, really helped. So yeah, really enjoyed Mimikyu more than I thought I would. I often find Mimikyu being like overhyped or overrated, but like no, it was definitely super impactful, super good to use this season, and makes me excited to potentially draft Mimikyu again in future seasons to give it a chance. So yeah. Really can't expect anything, really couldn't compare its supportive and offensive capabilities, which is quite funny because the next mon on our list is like almost a polar opposite in the fact that Mimikyu is so flexible in its supporting and offensive capabilities. Metagross, just offensive, just straight up a menace. It was the highest kills across all my Pokemon, including it being a Terra Captain. The type, the stats, the offense, great. Like, this is what I said when I picked it up. Like, I wanted it because it's an absolute stat merchant. Not only is it good, like, offensively and being very bulky, but, like, it has priority access with Bullet Punch, or just straight up Meteor Mash to give me damage whilst boosting my own attack up. Yes, there was a few times when Meteor Mash missed, where it did cost me the game, but just as equally, it hit just as many, getting boosts on just as many, which won me games. So really can't complain. Metagross for me holds a place in my heart on draft teams because I've won more draft leagues with Metagross than probably any other Pokemon, and I've had the most success with Metagross than any other Pokemon in my draft career. Which is really funny because a lot of other people, like other pseudo legendaries like Dragapults and the Garchomps and the Salamances, maybe less so Salamence, but especially Dragonite this gen. But I've always really loved Metagross. It was my best mon back in Sword and Shield. Like, I like to track my stats and stuff, but Metagross had like I think 70 odd kills through my entire history of Sword and Shield draft leagues, and like I've not had great opportunity to use it this generation. I found like Metagross really found it tough this generation to find itself a niche in draft, but it really found a great spot on this team. Like, could not fault it. And what was really fun about it is because of its speed stat, because of the nature of my team, I was able to run it both offensively inside Trick Room and outside into Tailwind, and it was able to switch really quickly in between that, even in the sets that it was playing. So yeah, sadly I forgot to alter the impact slide on this, but that's fine. You get what I was going at. I think I also forgot to edit the brought weeks, sadly, so you'll have to just take my word for it that Metagross is really good. The problem for Metagross is that it really fell off during the playoffs because of it wasn't able to Terra as much. Terra at all, because it wasn't able to Terra, it really struggled to be brought to games, and some of my other Pokemon were just better suited for the matchups at hand. Especially as I was facing off against a lot of specially offensive teams, or like where its defensive typing just wasn't like impactful. Like, as I say, facing off against a rain team in the final match, not much Metagross can really do against a Palafin, to be honest. It's just too strong for it. So yeah, with no way to really hit it back other than Thunder Punch. So yeah, sorry about this mistake on this slide, but at least everything else is right. The stats are right, and the little bit information underneath the silver gross damage. So yeah, lastly, the MVP of my season, my champion season, is Meowstic, a Pokemon that I added in the final, added to the team, wasn't an OG Pokemon. It's not one of the Pokemon I drafted, and it wasn't even a Pokemon I won. It was a Pokemon I added in week 6 after losing Latios to, I believe, Mismag. And hilariously, it came from the person I played in week 7 and the final, Camo. Camo dropped Meowstic to pick up, I believe... Ooh, I don't remember which Pokemon he picked up. But he just found himself not really gelling with it. It was a Prankster Rainmon for his team. He had Ability Rain as well as this manual Rain setup. And because he dropped it, I picked it up because I lost Laios and I felt like I still needed that extra support piece I couldn't really find elsewhere. And oh my god, like, I've had a lot of Meowstic in the past and I've dropped it myself because I've just found, you know what, it's not really doing it for me. It's not like Klefki, it's not like Morgrim or Grimmsnarl that I like to use. And it just felt like a little bit flat. But this season, absolute menace. It never lost a game it was brought to. It got decent kills and decent damage from like psychic noise and stuff into Pokemon when it's not spec'd into special offense at all, and it was still chipping them for decent damage off weak moves. The screens, game changer. Having access to the Prankster screens made my bulky team so much harder for teams to deal with. Because that's kind of the composition I end up going with, is like this balanced approach, which is a lot of the time what I like. It's what I like to draft, is balance rather than being like hyper offensive or synergistic. I like to collect a collection of weird and wonderful, like well balanced Pokemon that can kind of flexibly fit in to different teams and stuff. And Meowstic was just that glue. Like, I think up to that point, like, I think it had Scrafty as a Gluemon, Mimikyu as a Gluemon. And what was cool about Meowstic is that it just took so much of the pressure off so many mons in my team that were needed for their own. Like, I couldn't go for weather control in a lot of games because of I couldn't have boosted energy and deal with fake out and stuff with the Iron Jugulus. But Meowstic, just set up a Covert Cloak, go for Prankster Weather Control, Prankster Screens, even Prankster Misty Terrain against one of the terrain teams, the Expanding Force team, and just crucial in so many of these wins. I can't express it. I think I'm. If you know me, you know I really value Klefki as a Pokemon in draft. Like, Klefki is my go-to. Meowstic was budget Klefki for me, honestly. Like, it was so good. Its typing, maybe not the best, but it lived a lot of hits that you wouldn't have thought it should. And as you can see here, never lost a game. And it went to every game after it got picked up. I don't think I could have won without Meowstic. I really don't. And yeah, that's another season that I've won that I owe all to a Prankster Pokemon. I honestly love Prankster so much in draft. It's untrue. But yeah, that basically marks the team. This was the team that I had in the end. This is my champion team with the little Pikachu in the corner, the little trophy Pikachu that I won from the final. Really weird and wonderful team. What's really funny is I had Primarina and Venusaur with pledge modes that actually made an impact in I think it was the semi-final match where pledge, water pledge and grass pledge was used. I ended up with 2 water types, which is not the first time that I've won a league with 2 water types on my team. The Raikou was really good. Volcarona, was meh. The Meowstic, absolute winner. I really like this team. It's one of my favourite teams I've ever drafted. Just full of absolute win after win after win after win of Pokemon. And they're all Pokemon that I enjoy playing with as well, so yeah. And like, I find it funny to look at because it's like, it's not full of those threats that you see win draft leagues after draft league after draft league. It's not full of like the really oppressive paradox Paradox Mons. Like I have Iron Jugulus, who's more of a support piece. It's not got like the Xian Pao or anything like that on it. I think, to be fair, I think legendaries were banned from this league, but like the Paradoxes weren't. So, and like the pseudo legendary is Metagross, which honestly this gen, as I mentioned before, hasn't been seeing as much love. So I think it's a really unique team, really proud of it, and yeah. If you got to this point in the video, I just want to say a massive thank you for listening to my rambles. I want to say a massive thank you to the to the TGR server, like for hosting the league and for allowing me to play. And I know that sounds funny because I'm also a moderator there, but like I'm talking about the other mods, the true mods of the league. Thank you to all the players for playing. Great season, really enjoyed playing with you all, and thank you to everyone in my server for helping me prep the season and getting this win. Like there's many times I doubt myself in a season, I doubt the teams I make, I doubt the plays I make, and if it's not for those guys like just wasting their time listening to me moan and complain and just supporting me through it, like I wouldn't be getting the wins that I do get, and I couldn't have been more appreciative of their help, love and support. So yeah, thank you all for listening, and until next time guys, see you then.